Who is the female character in different works now? Of course, you will remember those with curvy forms and bikinis, or those who throughout the story are a romantic addition to the main character, who is always the man whose role is higher. After doing a deep dive on how Invincible writes its male characters, I realized something. Most works still treat women like bait. But then there's Frieren, Beyond Journey's End. This show doesn't just write good female characters, it writes them better than almost anything else in the genre right now. And the crazy part, it does it without a single bikini armor, without forced romance plots, and without making them strong because they're angry. Instead, Frieren gives something special. Its females have real agency, real flaws, real growth, and ties everything to the show's core theme: time. Well, Frieren also throws those two tropes in the trash, so today I'm breaking down exactly how Frieren writes women, and why it hits so hard that the entire internet is obsessed. This video contains major spoilers for the entire Frieren anime, so you've been warned. Let's get into it. Every woman in this show feels like a real person with her own philosophy, her own scars, and her own relationship with time. And I want to start with Übel, the chaotic wildcard who proves Frieren can write women who are terrifying, morally gray, and still profoundly human. Übel is a first-class mage candidate who failed her previous exam by accidentally killing the proctor when he refused to step back. She gets a thrill out of life or death fights, stalks people to understand them, and has that perpetual creepy smile that makes everyone uncomfortable. It's easy to write her off as the classic horny murder goblin meme, the sadistic killer who loves violence for violence's sake, but the show, and manga, refuses to let her be that one note. What people get wrong is that Übel isn't evil for evil's sake. She's not indiscriminate, she kills bandits only when they attack first, and someone even buries them afterward, maybe even her, showing a twisted sense of closure. In the first-class mage exam, she pulls back from unnecessary kills multiple times. She empathizes with Werbel's desire to stay human, and lets him live after understanding him, even when she could finish him. She matches his excitement in combat, but doesn't push for death if the connection is made. Her core motivation isn't sadism, it's a desperate, broken need for human connection in a world that traumatized her. Like Frieren, she struggles to form bonds normally. Like Fern, she's a product of loss and a harsh upbringing. We know her big sister was key to her visualization magic, hinting at family ties that shaped her. If we talk about examples of characters like Übel, then there is a whole list of such examples of psycho characters that can be continued indefinitely. Such characters are praised for breaking the rules and being free from social norms, and it's fascinating. But it is Übel who disgusts people. And I assume that due to the fact that other characters are more important in the plot than Übel, who is only a minor character with a supposedly vile desire to fight everyone. But where Frieren withdraws quietly and Fern masks insecurity with strictness, Übel is extroverted in her weirdness, pushing boundaries, threatening violence to force interaction, because that's how she gets close enough to truly understand someone. Her magic is the perfect metaphor for this. Real Saiden cuts anything she can visualize as cuttable. And I need to mention her copying ability, which requires genuine empathy. She has to get inside someone's head, feel their life, their pain, and their personality. That's not the tool of a pure psychopath, it's the opposite. Empathy is her gateway to power, yet she's so maladjusted, she often crosses into violence to achieve it. She has a subtle death wish, craving those edge of death rushes not just to harm others, but also to feel alive and vulnerable herself. She expresses regret over lethal outcomes, shocked when she cuts too deep, doesn't revel in pointless murder, and pulls back once she's gotten the person. The show never judges her outright, it just lets her exist as a mirror to the protagonist, another broken soul shaped by a world full of orphans, wars, and short human lives. In a series where almost no humans are pure evil, Übel shows that even the most unsettling women can be searching for connection, just in the most unnerving way possible. From all this, I understand that Übel is like an anti-version of Frieren, which we're just talking about next. On paper, she looks like the classic wise, immortal elf trope. Stoic, detached, doesn't understand human emotions. But Frieren flips that trope completely. She's not emotionally stunted because she's too cool. She's emotionally stunted because she's lived so long that decades feel like weeks. You might wonder how Frieren, an anime with such a quiet and seemingly simple main character, managed to completely take over the internet. The truth is, the writers built the story around a few key ideas that make people fall in love with it. First, Frieren experiences the world in a completely different way than everyone else. Not just because she's an elf, but because she's over 1,000 years old. She has watched countless children grow up and grow old, including Himmel, the hero she once traveled with. Saying goodbye to him in the human world is part of her story, but that's a deeper topic on its own. At its core, Frieren is a story about emotional themes: loss, regret, and understanding the value of time. The main character lives through all of it. She loses people, tries to understand her feelings, and simply continues existing while searching for meaning in the choices she makes. What makes the show special is how seriously it treats her age. The story explores what life actually looks like for someone who has lived 1,000 years, in a world where humans live only a fraction of that time. Many stories use 1,000 years just to show how powerful a character is, but Frieren uses it to explore perspective, memory, and loneliness. And that perspective makes her fascinating to watch. Frieren is like a strange traveler moving through a world that isn't built for someone like her. The story is told largely through her point of view as she tries to understand human life, and that makes the journey incredibly engaging. Another reason the character works so well is the contrast she carries. One moment she's a cute, slightly awkward girl with silly habits that make people laugh. The next moment she's a terrifying force capable of wiping out entire armies of demons without emotion. But the real secret behind her appeal lies in her archetype. In many ways, Frieren is the boogeyman for the villains in the story. When antagonists appear, she destroys them with cold, effortless magic. We've seen this type of character before in media. Think about Batman in The Dark Knight or John Wick. We love those characters because they feel like monsters, but only to the villains. Their overwhelming power and brutal efficiency make them thrilling to watch, even though they're technically the heroes. There are many characters like this across fiction, but Frieren does something unique with the concept, because here, that unstoppable force is a quiet little elf girl. Another interesting comparison can be made with the Doctor from Doctor Who. The Doctor is an ancient traveler who lives through centuries, constantly outliving the people they care about. That kind of lifespan creates emotional distance, but Frieren's situation is a little different. She isn't learning emotions because she's broken by loss. She's learning them because her sense of time is completely different. For Frieren, the 10 years she spent traveling with the hero party felt like a short moment, almost like a long weekend. And that realization becomes the heart of the story. After the Demon King is defeated, Frieren looks back and understands that she barely knew the people she spent those 10 years with. Frieren isn't the wise mentor guiding everyone else. Instead, she's the one slowly being taught by time itself. The show takes its time with that growth. It never rushes her development. She begins to cry over memories she once ignored. She learns to care in small ways, like doing Fern's hair, collecting strange little trinkets, or remembering the tiny habits of people she loved. These quiet changes slowly transform her, and that gradual evolution is what makes Frieren one of the most believable immortal characters ever written, and, in many ways, one of the most human. Honestly, if immortality existed in real life, a person might end up a lot like Frieren. Alright, I need to tell you about the heart of whole anime, Fern. At first glance, Fern might seem like the type of character who exists mainly for a romantic storyline with someone like Stark. The kind of girl who's always trying to catch up to the male character in strength while supporting him along the way. You've probably seen this character type many times before. But Fern really isn't that. Yes, she and Stark are good friends, but their relationship goes deeper than a typical romance setup. What makes her interesting is that she hides a lot of insecurity behind a very mature attitude. Sometimes that behavior can even irritate the viewer, but if you look closer, it makes a lot of sense. Fern often acts extremely confident. She jumps to conclusions quickly and can be stubborn or sharp towards the people around her, especially Stark, who is usually much more easygoing. But from Fern's perspective, this behavior is understandable. In her mind, adults are supposed to be serious, strict, and composed all the time. In reality, adults are only like that when they need to be. Most of the time, they're just relaxed and being themselves. Fern simply hasn't realized that yet. After all, she's still a teenager. And during that stage of life, emotions feel much stronger, while self-doubt builds up more than ever. On top of that, Fern was forced to grow up much faster than most people. She lost her parents and later her foster father at a young age. She lived through war and traveled the world fighting monsters alongside Frieren. Because of that, the author portrays her in a surprisingly realistic way. Fern feels like a real person trying to act like an adult before she's fully ready. In some ways, she reminds me of characters like Eleven from Stranger Things. Eleven also went through traumatic experiences at a young age. Both of them have a social distancy, and they always tries to be serious about future threats, but deep inside, she's still a little girl. You might expect a character like Fern to resemble typical anime heroines like Hinata or Uraraka, but Frieren likes to surprise you. So why does all of this work so well? Because Frieren ties every single woman to the theme of time. Frieren is learning that time is precious exactly because it's finite for everyone else. Fern is racing against time, trying to become strong before her own life ends. And Übel lives entirely in the present, cutting through everything that doesn't matter. The beauty of how Frieren writes women is that it never falls into the trap of relying on tropes, caricatures, or gender roles to write its characters. Every one of them feels fleshed out in some way, and this isn't done for the sake of subverting expectations. It's done to portray a universal truth. It's impossible to truly capture the essence of a person into just one or two details. The show never objectifies them. In a genre full of one-dimensional girls who exist only to motivate the male lead or provide something like this, Frieren gives us 4 completely different women who all feel like they could exist in the real world, if the real world had magic and immortality. I love how Frieren writes women, and all of its characters for that matter, because it writes them as how anybody wants to be perceived, as living, breathing people with all the complexities that come with being one. And that's why the show became an instant classic.